Hey, in this video I'm going to be completing my code in accordance with my game design document using my story. But we do encourage you to create your own story. So just skim through this video and bear in mind there's some useful code folding tips at around 11 minutes and 20 seconds. All I'm going to be doing is taking this GDD here and then hopping over to monodevelop and embellishing this code with a lot more states here and a lot more methods at the bottom. And then I will be testing the code just to make sure it works, showing it to somebody else, which I encourage you to do, by the way. Show somebody else locally first, and then when we go on to build and share on the internet, of course, show a small group of people so they can look for typos and things that are confusing. But that's about all I'm going to do in this video. So as I say, if you want to follow our story through, pick up a couple of tips on the way, feel free to watch it, but otherwise skip ahead. And just you know that you're succeeding when your game is running and working to your satisfaction. Okay, so let's dive in and get this finished. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have all of our states in our enumerated list. We already have shown you how to put the states onto 2 lines. So to save you watching me type it, I'm simply going to copy and paste across all of the states. They're just simply every state that we see in the game design document, you need to make sure is in your enumerated state. Fantastic. So that's the first thing that we need to do. Then what? Well, our start method is absolutely fine. It just sets the state and moves on. Then we've got this list of ifs. So if you haven't already indented on the first if, the brackets, you're welcome to, just to make things line up. So what do we need here? Well, we just need to add a few more things in. We've got as far as corridor 0. What we need to do next is add in all of the rest of the states that we just added to the list above. So again, to save you the pain of watching me type it all, there it goes, just pasted. So when you type these, you'll notice that they go red. They go red, why? Why are these method calls red? Because the methods don't exist. So a little tip for you is it may be easier to add the methods at the top here immediately after the update method, so that the second you've added one, it disappears from the red, or the redness disappears. Let me show you that in action with the first in question, which is stairs_0. So again, to save you watching, I'm going to put my story text in. Now all of this final code is available for you to download just like it was before. So if you want to do that, that's available on the next lecture. You can just download the final code state. So you don't need to type all of my story out if you do want to use my story. But I'm no creative genius, so please consider writing your own. So here you go. The moment I put the stairs0 method in, this one goes black. I think you get the idea. All right, so now the thing is to just paste all of the rest of the methods in, checking a few things as you go. And this may be useful if you're still watching and you're doing your own story. The things to be careful of is, does the text make sense? Firstly, the first part of the text, the description, does it make sense? In context, when you look at what stage of the story you're at in the diagram, make sure your text fits. The next thing to say is make sure that your command here matches up with your if statement. So when you've told people after the new lines what they can do, then make sure that matches up with what you've actually got. So for example, here we have 3 transitions, S, M and L. Make sure it matches up. And then the third thing is make sure that the destination states are correct. So if we look at cell, for example, and we look at our game design doc, we should be going to sheets, mirror and lock 0 respectively, which we are in this case. So they're the main things to check and make sure look right. All right, so that's the process of adding the new methods in. So then what do we need next? Well, I'm going to add a stairs1 in next. There it is, and I'm just going to indent so that it's all clear and consistent, and stairs1 has gone. And then I would be continually referring back to the game design doc to think about what I want to say, what I want to offer to offer the player, etc., and what I don't. Okay, so the next method in question is stairs2. I'm just going down this list in the update function and just adding them in one at a time. So at stairs2 is where we start talking about the paperclip and the options we have there. which at this stage is just to return. It says that we're armed with a paperclip, but we're still not willing to go up the stairs. We're not brave enough. Okay, now it's out of order in terms of the story, but as it's the next in my list, I'm going to put courtyard in now. Now, it doesn't matter which order you put these in. As I say, if you keep putting them at the top, at least you don't have to keep scrolling up and down to see how far you're going in terms of the other methods you've got to write. And then floor comes in. Again, all of these, I'm liking the text to be indented consistently. Okay, and then corridor 1, corridor 2. Now, it's difficult because it's a kind of nested loop with lots of different ways you can go around. It's difficult to test it until you finish this. So you might feel nervous writing this many lines of code without testing. And if you want to, you can stop and test. But it's difficult because you need all of the methods to be there in order to be able to do all of the state transitions. So I would just carry on with confidence if you can now and just get all of these written in. And immediately that you see that something needs changing, that's the time to change it. That's the spirit, as they say here in Britain. So that's what you want to be doing. So this is the graft, the hard graft. And hopefully you like writing and you like being creative. If you don't, then maybe one of your friends could do the actual story bit for you. If you're going to make games, a huge part of it these days is about creating the assets. It's particularly the case now that we have such powerful game engines. You tend to need much less development effort than you did before, and much more artistic effort. So this is the artistic effort. You know, there is a better way, of course, of creating this engine and of an artist entering this information, but it would use code structures that are a little bit beyond this stage of the course. This is a little bit cumbersome. But it's not bad. It's not bad. It works and it's pretty flexible. Allows you to create an adventure game with a pretty good branching story. You just need to be careful your game design doc doesn't get too crazy and convoluted. So now I have a method for every single state, and I have if statements. Everything's in my enumeration. So let's try building. Seems to work. Let's go into Unity and try running. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into and out of every state. So sheets and back, lock and back, mirror and back, then mirror and take. Okay, then sheets and back, and lock and back, and lock and open. You're in a corridor. Press P to play again. So we have a problem. Now what state are we in? Look at the console. It's logging out to corridor 0. So there's something wrong with our corridor 0 function, and I think that's just because I didn't update it. So where is my corridor 0? You can use Control F to find, remember, and I'm going to do that. Corridor 0, and just you can go up and down in the up and down arrows until you find the method. There you go. So corridor 0 is just incomplete. It doesn't make sense. It's a hangover from the freedom method that we had before. So corridor 0 needs to be a lot more exciting than that. So let's change it, embellish it. There you go. Now we have these 3 different options and all the key states. Fantastic. So now let's try playing again. Now, by the way, if you were still in run state, actually, which you are, look what happens. Even if you're leaving Unity running, if you save your script, actually it will update. So you can just carry on from here. C to view the closet, but you must be clicked into the game for this to work. C to view the closet, R to return. F to inspect the floor, R to return. S to climb the stairs, R to return. Good. So F and then H takes us forward. P to pick the lock. Or S to climb the stairs. Well, it's stairs and retreat. Pick the lock, return. Revisit the closet, dress up, undress. Seems to work. Dress up, stairs. Great, and we're free. Yippee! Okay, so I did a very quick flick through there making sure that the navigation worked. What you'd want to do as well is go through very carefully proofreading everything. Very, very common errors here are going to be with spaces, a missing space, because when you look at your code, it's very easy to miss this space on the end of a line here, right here, before you concatenate on. So make sure you've got those spaces in. That's going to be your most common, probably, cause of error here. Your other cause of error is just not going to the right destination states. So this would be a great time to scroll up and down your code and make sure that the indentation levels are consistent, that the text all looks good. I'm looking that this orange line here is a line and that these brackets form a line. And I'm just generally making sure that I'm leaving this code. I could indent this if I wanted to. Wherever there's two ifs together, I could choose to indent them together, if you see what I'm saying here, so that I can see the key codes right next to each other. This is just style, this is just choice, it's all just white space. But what I'd like to do before I did any more with my game is make sure that the code is really consistent and clean. And it's this kind of attention to detail that tends to reduce errors. The other thing you need to do and suck up sometimes, like we did in a previous video, is sometimes you need to just make a bulk change to some naming that you settled on before, like state underscore for all these methods, and just realize that's a hassle. It's a hassle to copy and paste. It was just generally a hassle, so we got rid of it. So the moment you get an inkling that you'd be better off doing a renaming somewhere, just go ahead and do it straight away, because it's almost certainly that you're right and that it will save you a lot of trouble later. But I think that's looking pretty good now. It's all there, it's all indented nicely, it's all looking consistent, and just going up and down the code a few times just to check can really help you to see any patterns and spot any errors. So now that we've got quite a lot of code, this is a great time to introduce a couple of suggestions made by students, just to show you that we listen to students' feedback. Here is a suggestion firstly by Trevor Stocks. He's saying that we should show you how to collapse sections of code. So let me show you how to do that. If you go to Monodevelop and Preferences, and then down to Text Editor and General, you can see Enable Code Folding, this option here. Monodeveloper Preferences, Text Editor General, Enable Code Folding. Once you've done that, you'll get these little tree-like icons on the left, and it lets you collapse down your entire code. So the imports, the main class, and then the update method, for example, and then each of these sub-methods. So that can be a really helpful way of you seeing what the state of your code is. So have a go with code collapsing. And then I want to show you a second suggestion from another student here, which is Anthony McKeever. Thank you, Anthony. Suggested using the hash region syntax. So let me just show you how to do that, and that's particularly useful in this game. So we have our definition of our enum, our start method, our update method, but then below that we have something that's basically a whole massive group of state handler methods. So if I put hash region, then state handler methods, it'll come up in purple. And then if at the very bottom of the code I go, probably here would make most sense, hash end region. Now look what happens. If we scroll to the top, we can go to our update, but then we can collapse down our state handler methods. You see that? So now it reads really nicely. We have the main class, which if we collapse it down, everything's gone away. And then we have all of our methods, our update, and then all of our state handler methods can be expanded out. So, and you can logically define this however you like. So try hash region and hash end region. Thank you very much to both Anthony McKeever and Trevor Stocks for these great suggestions. All looks good to me. So that's fantastic. We have a much more interesting, much more nuanced story now. So I really hope that if you've followed it to this point with my story, I hope that you'll stop and that you will make your own story now. Maybe make a new project altogether and write your own story in that, or just go ahead and edit the code so that you know the structure's right. You could have your own story with the same structure. So what that would mean is that you have exactly the same branching, you just change my wording a little bit, or translate it maybe. If you're not English, how about you translate it to your native language? That would be a great thing to do. And what I really want you to do is when we show you how to build and share this game, that you build it and that you share it and that you let other people see it and you share it on the course. And we'll talk about that in another video. So get creative, get going. You now have an engine to build an arbitrarily complex or large text adventure. Just as you do so, make sure you put plenty of points in where the thinker is allowed to simplify, like the transition from the cell out. When we left the cell here, we decided not to allow people back to the cell. We also decided to ignore that we're carrying the mirror, etc. Otherwise, the whole thing just goes crazy very quickly. Cool. Thanks for following this far, and I'll see you soon.